Breaking news out of Knoxville, Tennessee, where at least one person is dead following a shooting at a high school. You're looking live at Austin East Magnet High School. That's where authorities are now on scene. Police say multiple people were injured, including a police officer who is currently being treated at a hospital.
The superintendent tweeting that all students have been reunited with their families except for those, quote, involved in this afternoon's incident. Knoxville police say there is no threat to the public at this time. We will continue to bring you the very latest on the investigation, both on air and online.
Western Mass News is getting answers tonight as a warning goes out to parents about a rise in COVID-19 cases among children.
The warning comes as young people are still waiting for their chance to get the vaccine. Western Mass News reporter Audrey Russo is live for us in Springfield with more on what you need to know. Audrey?
When most kids get sick with COVID-19, they have the same flu-like symptoms that adults get, but not all. I asked local health officials how many kids get sick enough to require hospitalization. They tell me that recently, one kid even needed to go into the ICU. In the city of Springfield alone last week, 80 kids, 10 and younger, tested positive for COVID-19. That number jumps to 115 among people 11 to 20. Bay State Health President and CEO Mark Kerouac says some kids get a ramped up inflammatory response.
Their immune system gets riled up and can cause organ damage.
Western Mass News, taking questions to the officials, asked how many children he's seeing getting severely ill locally.
Just this month, we have seen 5 kids hospitalized and 1 had that severe syndrome requiring the ICU.
Kerouac says his biggest concern isn't the in-person school environment or even heavily supervised after-school activities. He's more worried about what happens after those activities end.
The carpooling to the soccer game, the pizza party afterward, that's oftentimes where these transmissions occur.
Springfield's Health and Human Services Commissioner says she's seeing cases spike at city colleges. We asked which ones, but she wouldn't name specific schools. Instead, she said more than one have seen clusters.
The clusters on a weekly basis range anywhere from 15 to 25. So it's a significant number. And what we are seeing is several institutions coming in at the same time.
Which she says begs the question,
are these students interacting outside of their regular student environment?
One upside from this news, health officials say extra testing of Springfield Public School student athletes and extra diligence on the teens' part yielded 0 positive test results this week.
The kids really wanted to get back on the field, were extremely cautious, and they got back on the field.
Springfield city officials say that they're creating a public information campaign targeting those who are younger, encouraging them to get the vaccine. Now, Pfizer's vaccine is approved for those 16 and older only. However, they've recently filed with the FDA for approval for those 12 to 15. Live in Springfield, Audrey Russo for Western Mass News.
Audrey, thanks for that live report. West Springfield officials began setting up a regional vaccine site at the Biggie Fairgrounds today. The site is expected to open next Tuesday, April 20th. The town will administer about 1,500 shots a week, with a quarter of those reserved each day for local residents. West Springfield Mayor Will Reichelt telling Western Mass News residents will receive their doses similar to how the Big E celebrates Town Appreciation Days.
On Mondays will be West Springfield Day, Tuesday Agawam Day, Wednesday Westfield Day, then Southwick Day in the Hilltowns. And those shots on those days, that 25% will be allocated to that community.
The mayor says he anticipates vaccinations to be scheduled up until September, when this year's Biggie Fair is set to kick off.
The Department of Public Health releasing today's COVID-19 data. The state's positivity rate over the last 7 days sits at 2.3%. The state also seeing 19 new deaths due to the coronavirus. So far, more than 2.9 million Massachusetts residents have received 1 dose of the COVID-19 vaccine. There are approximately 6.8 million people living in the Bay State. For a full look at those numbers, check our free Western Mass News streaming app.
New at 6, over the last year, many families had to bury loved ones who lost their lives due to COVID-19.
Starting today, federal reimbursements for funeral costs became available to help ease some of the devastation caused by the virus. Western Mass News reporter Briseida Landaverde joins us live in Springfield with more on that. Briseida.
Chris and Jordan, I spoke to one funeral home owner who says, while this will not help bring anyone's family member back, it will provide some much needed relief.
First of all, they had to deal with a loss.
Many Americans who have lost a family member due to COVID-19 are now eligible to receive funeral expense refunds through the Federal Emergency Management Agency known as FEMA. Starting this week, residents can apply for this program. The assistance covers expenses incurred after January 20th, 2020. Some of the eligibility requirements include the applicant must be a U.S. citizen. The death must have taken place within the United States, but the deceased person does not have to be a U.S. citizen. Some of the documents required include an official death certificate stating COVID-19 as the cause of death, record of funeral expenses, and proof of funds received from other sources. James Adams, the vice president of First and Adams Funeral Services, tells Western Mass News this will help ease some of the burden felt amid the pandemic.
It gives them some reimbursement. Most of these people, because it was a year ago, most of these people have paid for the funeral. But this gives them an opportunity to get some of the money back.
Adams says a funeral typically costs anywhere from $4,000 to $12,000. Under this program, residents can receive up to $9,000 in reimbursements per funeral and a maximum of $35,000 per application if applying for multiple family members.
Unfortunately, we can't turn back the time and give them the funeral that they wanted, and that's too bad because people have struggled with that more than anything.
Cheryl Coakley-Rivera, the Hampden County Register of Deeds, tells us her office receives regular calls from residents concerned about how to provide a proper burial for their loved ones.
It's hard enough to know that your loved one has passed away and you weren't there with them. And now financially, that's a huge burden, especially during COVID, right? People lost their jobs, hours were cut.
For more information on how to apply, head to our website, westernmassnews.com. For now, reporting live in Springfield, Briseda Landaverde for Western Mass News.
Briseda, thank you for that live report. Springfield Fire Commissioner B.J. Calvey speaking out today, frustrated after criminal activity involving juveniles at the former Massachusetts Career Development Institute.
That site currently being demolished after an arson fire in 2016 destroyed the building and left several firefighters injured. That's where we find Western Mass News reporter Lindsay Kane live for us with those details. Lindsay?
Chris and Jordan, just a few weeks ago, fire crews were here putting out yet another fire at this building. This is what the scene looked like when Western Mass News cameras first arrived on March 26th. Smoke pouring out of the former MCDI building. Just a few days later, on March 31st, Springfield Fire Commissioner B.J. Calvey says 3 juveniles were found on top of the building with tools that could be used to break inside. He says 1 juvenile was in Department of Children and Families Care. While Springfield officials are investigating, they tell Western Mass News they are not getting full cooperation from the state.
DCF flatly refused to let us talk to this juvenile, and we're at a standstill with trying to get more information on what's going on up there at the MCDI facility. If there is a major fire at the MCDI facility, if anybody is injured or killed, the only one to blame in this case now is the Department of Families and Children, because they are unwilling to cooperate in the investigation of 3 arson fires at that facility. So if anybody's injured, hurt, or killed, or a major fire burns down parts of the neighborhood, there's no one to blame except DCF at this point.
Back in 2016, 3 different juveniles were arrested for purposely setting the MCDI building on fire. That fire left at least $500,000 in damage and several firefighters injured. There have been at least 2 other confirmed arson fires at that site. Now the city of Springfield is in the process of demolishing the building, a $230,000 bill to just clean the debris from that 2016 fire. We have reached out to DCF for a comment, but have not heard back at this time. Springfield officials say it's unclear if those juveniles were connected to that March 26th fire. Live in Springfield, Lindsay Kane, Western Mass News.
Well, Well, it's been a cloudy day here across the area with just a little bit of wet weather here and there. We got most of it last night, but today we've been dealing with some spotty showers. We're seeing some right now getting up into northern and central Berkshire County, but the rest of us have had some spotty drizzle, just a few sprinkles here and there, and a lot of cloud cover. Now that overcast is going to start breaking up a little bit as we head into the overnight, but right now we are still cloudy, sitting steady at 49 degrees. It is brisk. Wind has been out of the northeast all day, which kind of keeps those temperatures on the chilly side here across New England, and it keeps those clouds in place. Temperatures right now are still at 50. Greenfield, Amherst, North Adams checking in at 50 as well. We will all see temperatures dip into the 40s this evening though, and breezes will start to lighten up a little bit overnight, but it's still going to be kind of chilly throughout the evening. By 11 p.m. we're getting down into the middle 40s, and tomorrow morning as the kiddos hit the bus stop, it will be a dry start to the day, a little chilly to begin the morning, and then in the afternoon highs will hit lower 60s with a bit more sunshine. We'll take a look at your full forecast in just a few minutes. Back to you.
Janna, thanks. Now to an update on a story that Western Mass News first brought you earlier today. No one was hurt after a driver crashed into a school van in Springfield this morning. Police say a driver was pulled over on Plainfield Street, dropping their child off for school. When they turned back onto the road, they hit a school transportation van that was carrying one student. No citations were given. The Springfield Traffic Unit is investigating.